This is your nut trial.
This is my food natural.
Yeah, we love that for you.
Yeah.
That's my mum in an absolute grime.
Oh.
Front of Ocean Beach, Ibiza, raving it up, went on. I think I realised I was transgender around age 8, I'd say, and then just through like me preferring girls' clothing, girls' toys, and then it wasn't until I was around age 13 it finally clicked after watching a show called Ladyboys. I was like, oh god, I actually might be trans. But when I watched it, it was just like inspirational to see that people could actually do it, and just gave me this sense of like, this is what you are type of thing. When I was growing up, like inspiration-wise for me, I didn't know any trans people at the time. Like I didn't know any famous because there really wasn't. So I think at the time I was looking up to more like cis female people. But I think if I was in this situation now, like, and I was younger now and I thought I was trans, 100% I'd be looking up to like kind of your Monroe Bergdorfs, like your Laverne Cox, like people like that. I think that are just like amazing. The only time I can remember seeing like a trans person on TV would be in like, is someone like having sex with a she-male, like, and it was like as a pun and a joke. I can't remember like any actual like main trans, I don't think there was. Before I was like, am I trans, aren't I trans? I didn't even think about it, like, it didn't even cross my mind that I could be transgender. Then it was when I used to think of stuff like, my mum would talk about like a wedding, and she'd be like, well, when you're walking down the aisle, and I'm like, I would want to wear a dress. But for some reason, I just never clicked that I was trans. So I would always say, oh my God, I wish I was a girl. Like, it would be so much easier, but I just didn't think it was like in the realm of like possibility. For some reason, it wasn't until that I realized that this is like a thing. Because growing up, all I'd ever known like transgender people to be is like literal like men in wigs, like really cute. I never thought that you could just properly transition. I'd say there was a moment watching that show, when I watched it I was like, I knew that I was like, this is what it is. And then from there it became like a snowball effect of like different feelings, wanting to buy hair, wanting to buy makeup, wanting to go out and buy female clothes. It took a long time for me to like really like, I'm gonna do this. As a child, I was always quite confident. It wasn't this scary feeling. I was more excited about like, oh my God, like I can actually do this. Like, that was that initial feeling. And then I think then the kind of gender dysphoria kind of kicks in, and you start realizing, actually, no, I really hate my body. And I'd always hated it, but I never knew why. There was always this like resentment towards myself. So I think at first it was more exciting. It was like someone kind of giving you this like ticket to be like, you can go out and you can do all this stuff. Then you realize who you actually are. So it was like bittersweet, I'd say. Growing up, I had all these friends with like amazing bodies, and they would like have like the best asses, the best tits, and I'd look at myself and I'd be like, oh, I look like an iPad, like compared to these women that are like this. So I would like diet all the time, like these yo-yo crazy diets, and like watch online about how to get a waist, which obviously is not possible as like a teenage boy to get this like Kim Kardashian body. So I think it like came in like all different type of ways. So at the time when I realised I'd had this like body dysmorphia, this kind of like realisation that I was trans, I was lucky enough to have really good friends. I have like my gay best friend of like 14 years. So I didn't feel scared at all to message him. Like, there wasn't this feeling of coming out. So it was kind of this feeling of like, I wasn't alone in it. And then obviously I told like other friends. I was always so open in school. Like, I was never ever scared to like say what I was or what I was gonna do. Like, I came out as gay, and then as soon as I realised I was trans, I literally told everyone. I was like, I'm gonna start wearing wigs now to school, and I did. I'd come in on like Saturday school to this like Catholic school, and like these like 26-inch blonde wig, and you just see these Catholic school teachers be like, don't say anything, just let him be. I felt super lucky that I'd found these people that I just know, and I still know now, like, it's like stood the test of time, that they've been there through every single phase that I've been through. 100%, that was like one of the biggest reliefs of me like coming out. We used to play these games, like when I came out, I was like, if you call me Teddy, at the time was my name, you have to do a shot. So we made it into like this fun, like, if you call me he, you have to do a shot. So I just kind of made it not intimidating and scary for these people to ask questions. And so I think in that sense, it kind of just flowed like really well. I feel like with me, when it comes to being offended, or my whole thing was like, when I knew what I was gonna do, like, I had to be realistic in the sense that I was in a secondary school in the middle of Bermondsey. I had to be realistic. If I went into this on this like, let me look down on you if you call me the wrong thing, because most of the times the intent is not there. You can't go from A to Z and not expect someone to like land in the middle. People are gonna mess up, people are gonna say the wrong things, but as long as their intent isn't to be like spiteful, then do you know what I mean? If it's constant and they don't want to change, then you know to take a step back and be like, actually, I don't want to be around you because you keep calling me he, you keep calling me this, it's actually quite offensive, and you've had enough time now. Like there's certain people that I just was like, do you know what? But if you create that atmosphere of you're gonna mess up, I'm gonna mess up. When I first transitioned, my head wasn't always like me or she. Even now, sometimes I still think he, like in my head about myself, because it's just that natural instinct to say it, but it's not, the intent isn't there to like offend. So I think it's like finding that middle ground with people. I always knew I fancied boys. Like I never went through like this like finding myself of like, oh my God, I might like boys. From the youngest age, I fancied boys. Like, I always remember doing it. So from that age, I didn't know what gay people was. I thought I was this weirdo, freak of the week. Like, no one was gonna talk to me like, because I didn't know what it like, do you know what I mean? Then obviously as I grew up, I learned. My dad was quite homophobic growing up as well. My dad and my brother would be like, when you grow up, if you are gay, you're not gonna have any family. No one's gonna speak to you. So do not come out as gay, and gays are all paedophiles. They're like really harsh stuff to like say to a literal 8-year-old. Everyone knew that I was never a straight acting, and my brother would be, I'd be like, what are you gonna do if I grow up and I'm gay? And he'd be like, I'll never talk to you. He's like, I'll never ever be in your life. And like my dad would say it, my nan would say it. I think at the time it hurt, but I put on a brave face to be like, it doesn't hurt me. But I think at the time it did really affect me. Of course it would anyone, like it's your dad, it's your brother. But I think my relationship with them, whether I was born as straight, cis, female, I would still have this tested relationship because I just don't like them as people. But it still, of course, it still hurt massively. Trans people have always been kind of seen as sexual objects, things that you hide. From my experience anyway, and from a lot of trans girls that have spoken to me, when people speak to trans girls, sex is brought up almost immediately. It's constantly a subject which you can freely explore. There's no kind of like, how are you? Like, let's go for a drink. It's always, we should get a hotel and we should fuck. So like when people are speaking to me and they're very like concerned with letting me know that they are discreet and we should meet in a hotel and we can have fun in a hotel, like it's that feeling of like you literally see me as someone that you are embarrassed to be with. And when I was younger, I definitely like played the field in that sense. Like I found my kind of affection in what they was doing. I just wanted to kind of feel like I was wanted. Whenever I go places, I see people like with like their boyfriends and girlfriends, and it's that kind of feeling of like, I've never had that. My brother, he did accept it at first. He was like, I want to see you as my sister. Like, I'm really gonna try. And then 4 or 5 years ago, I walked out, just said, you're dead to me. Not seen him since. I personally, for me, think it's better that we are apart and we're not in each other's lives very like closely. I don't think he's like some crazy like transphobic person. I just think you're better over there, I'm better over here. I have a better relationship with my mum and dad because of it, vice versa. So my relationship with my dad now, we have so much more of a better relationship than we've ever had because it is a more distant. Not that he was ever massively in my life, but we don't really go too deep ever. It's very surface, I feel like there's never any like deep chats apart from like a month ago I like went to like go and kill myself and I had to go to hospital because of it, and he was like, why didn't you call me? Why would I? Like you've never been there, like you've never like been the person that I would go to when I felt like I was in trouble, so why now? Probably seen my dad like once a year, twice a year, but it was never like that before. Like we was never really speaking before. It was only until 2 Christmases ago he kind of gave me a card and had to go through like every like fucking member of my family to get to me. And then I opened it and it said Mia on the front, and then my mum was like, he's called you Mia? And I just like burst out crying. Before I was like giving it the big and like, nah, fuck him, like he's not gonna be in my life. And obviously that it must have been that form of acceptance that I'd been kind of craving, but I didn't realise that I was, or maybe I didn't want to realise that I was. And then for me, I think that was like the start of a relationship. Okay, you've called me Mia, you want to be accepting, but you've done this after I've just done this like treacherous 4-year journey alone. You've not been here for anything, but now like put your money where your mouth is, like let's see if you're actually going to be a part of my life. When I first told my mum, I wasn't sure that she was going to be there. I was a bit like, you could turn around and be like, this is too much. This is like the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. I definitely was scared. My mum's the one person that if I'm not speaking to her, it really, really affects me, like massively. When I was younger with my mum, I felt like I could confide in her. I would always wear like blankets around me, like pretend I was a dress with my mum. Like she always made me feel like you can do whatever you want in front of me, like as long as you're happy. She gave me that kind of security growing up of being like, we won't tell your dad, you can do it in front of me, like don't feel scared. And I think that's why me and my mum became so close. So I've definitely got like family. When I first came out to like my sister, who is my cousin, but I remember she said to me, we always like joke about her now, she was like, I'd love you if you was an alien. Whatever happens, we're always gonna be there for each other. So even though at some points I've been quite sparse with like my family members and stuff, but in the end it's kind of all worked out for the best.